Hey YouTube, Kiritwick here, bringing you all an update to my Ice Barrier Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for August 2023. Been wanting to update the Ice Barrier deck. It's a deck that has, received a fair enough amount of support within the past couple years, including the structure deck that we got a while back as well. And it's a fun play style if you're looking to build a sort of synchro deck that can focus on some of the powerhouse dragons like Trishula, Bryonic, and Gungnir. This deck can definitely help with some of the newer support. You really don't run much from the older Ice Barriers aside from some of these Surge Power and easy special summonable monsters in the deck. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the 3 of counts that we run in the deck, we're running 3 copies of Revealer of the Ice Barrier. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, your opponent cannot tribute summon, and you can only use each of the following effects of Revealer once per turn. You can discard 1 card to special summon 1 Ice Barrier tuner from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except for water monsters. And if you would discard or send a card from your hand to the graveyard to activate an Ice Barrier monster's effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead of one of those cards. So it makes up for some of the minus costs that you might get off of some of your Ice Barrier cards, but being able to fully utilize your Revealer as also an easy special summon of a tuner monster onto the field can help to set up some of your lower level Ice Barrier synchro monsters that you may want to summon out using your Revealer of the Ice Barrier, and also some of the other tuners that we run in the deck to begin with. Along with the other monsters, we are also running the 3 copies of Speaker for the Ice Barriers. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, defense position monsters your opponent controls cannot change their battle position, so you can only use each of the following effects of Speaker for the Ice Barrier once per turn. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 Ice Barrier token onto the field. Being a level 1 monster, it helps for some of the adjustment for the synchro summons you may need to go for as well. And then also just being able to make use of an easy special summon from your hand by just controlling a Ice Barrier monster on the field, giving you another resource on the field for you to use also. And then for the last of the 3 ofs for the Ice Barrier monsters, 3 copies of General Wayne of the Ice Barrier. Spell and trap cards sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. You can only use each of the following effects of General Wayne of the Ice Barrier once per turn. If your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Ice Barrier spell and trap from your deck to your hand. So having a good number of different Ice Barrier spell and traps, including one of the better searchers for the deck as well, being Medallion of the Ice Barrier. Just having that set up, and along with Speaker for the Ice Barriers and Revealer of the Ice Barriers, all also carrying the many different restrictions, just like your General Wayne of the Ice Barrier has. You have more of that setup, and then also just the special summon effect for when this card is special summoned in the deck, just being able to add one of the other Ice Barrier spell and traps that we have also for you to use on the field once it's added from your deck to your hand, and then giving you that search power for some of the other cards. And then for the lower numbers for the Ice Barriers, we're also running 2 copies of Prior of the Ice Barrier. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You cannot special summon any level 5 or higher monsters the turn you summon this way, and you can tribute this card to target an Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard except for Prior the Ice Barrier, and special summon that target. So it helps for some of the lockdown plays that you can do with some of the other Ice Barrier monsters that we run, like Defender of the Ice Barrier. You do still have your link summon options to be able to use with Prior, just having another Ice Barrier on the field and then being able to special summon out Prior for you to then go for a link to play, since you will be restricted for your level 5 or higher monsters for that play. So unless you have the monsters for the turn you summon that play, you're really stuck for some of the other monsters you can go for aside for the link 2s with Prior the Ice Barrier. And then also 2 copies of Judge of the Ice Barrier. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, each time your opponent activates a card or effect by paying life points, they lose 500 life points. And you can only use each of the following effects of Judge of the Ice Barrier once per turn. You can target 1 or 2 Ice Barrier monsters in your graveyard, 1 or 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard, and shuffle them into the deck. And if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target an attack position monster in the field and change it to defense. So you have more of a shuffle back power for your opponent's graveyard, and then also being able to just have the recycle power of your Ice Barrier monsters on top of your opponent's monsters, and the restriction to make your opponent pay life whenever they try to activate a card or effect by paying life points. And then we're also running 2 copies of Zujin of the Ice Barrier. You can tribute this card to special summon one level 5 or higher Ice Barrier monster from your hand. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can target a level 3 or higher water monster you control and reduce its level exactly by 2. And if you do special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, you go and use each effect of Yugioh once per turn. But Yugioh also helps for special summoning out cards like General Wayne onto the field, and then also adjusting some of the levels for our Ice Barrier tuners to then help with some of the special summoning we may need to go for some of the other monsters, with some of the other cards being one of our better tuners in the deck, which is Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent control lose 500 attack and defense, and during your main phase, you can send one level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your deck to the graveyard, and this card's level becomes the same as that monster. So this is also the adjusted level power that you can use your Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier to adjust with some of the other Ice Barrier cards to then make this card's level the same of that Ice Barrier monster to then go for the many different synchro plays. For the one-ups for the Ice Barrier monsters in the deck, we're also running the 1 copy of General Raiho of the Ice Barrier and the 1 Defender of the Ice Barrier. The Defender helps while you control another Ice Barrier monster. Monsters your opponent control cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than or equal to this card's defense. So it really helps to shut down that play, especially if you can summon it out with your go-to prior of the Ice Barrier onto the field with Defender. That is the special summon lock that I mentioned before, just restricting your opponent's attacks from hitting Defender or any of your other Ice Barriers. In General Raiho, when your opponent's monster effect is activated, they must discard 1 card or the effect is negated. So it's not a once per turn either, it's just every time they try to activate a monster effect. So the faster you can get General Raiho on the field, and just needing a tribute or one of the special summon options for our other Ice Barrier monsters can help for that play, because you can also use cards like Yugioh of the Ice Barrier to special summon out General Raiho onto the field. And then for the rest of the main deck monsters, just the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring for the hand trap of choice of just being able to stop any of our opponent's search or graveyard setup plays. With the spells that we run in the deck, the spells definitely do help with the search power, running 3 copies of Medallion of the Ice Barrier. You just add 1 Ice Barrier monster from your deck to your hand. So this search is not a once per turn either, so if you have multiple copies of Medallion, you can help with that search and setup. Just being able to have, let's say, 2 of these can give you your Yugioh, and then also your General Raiho into your hand, giving you that lockdown play of the tribute special summon for Raiho on the field, making it all the more difficult for your opponent to resolve their own monster effects. And also the 3 copies of Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. When this card is activated, you can target 1 level 4 lower Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard to special summon it. And while you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters your opponent you control are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that were special summoned from the X deck. You go and activate 1 Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier per turn, but just having the special summon power for your Ice Barrier monsters just gives it a mandatory 3-of for this card to activate it and then get a resource back onto the field, along with the protection for your other Ice Barriers while you control 3 of them on the field. And then also the 2 copies of Winds over the Ice Barrier. Tribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters to special summon from your deck as many level 4 lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names from each other. And during your main phase, except the turn this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to target 1 of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished or in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So you have recycle power, but also just a way to change out some of the other different Ice Barriers on the field for some of the more needed ones you may need for the adjusted levels for some of your other plays. And then for some of the one-ofs for the spells in the deck, the 1 Magic Triangle of the Ice Barrier. You reveal 3 Ice Barrier monsters with different names in your hand, target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and then special summon 1 Ice Barrier monster from your hand. So another way to get out General Raiho if it's one of the 3 you control in your hand, or just any of your other starters like your Revealer of the Ice Barrier, while also taking out one of your opponent's cards. The 1 Monster Reborn, along with the 1 Foolish Burial, and the 1 Call by the Grave to finish off the spell lineup for the main deck. And then for the traps, I'm running 3 copies of Ice Barrier. When an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, negate its effects, and also cannot change its battle position. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to send 1 level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard, then add 1 water monster from your graveyard to your hand. Also, until the end of the next turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for water monsters, which really doesn't limit you much in the deck, since the majority of the cards that we do run to begin with in the deck are water monsters. This card's mostly used for its banish option from the graveyard, so if you wanted to, I was considering running Foolish Burial Goods. You can always take out the Call by the Grave and the Foolish Burial for Foolish Burial Goods to help set Ice Barrier up in the graveyard for the banish search option this card provides. And then lastly, the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just for another effect negation on the field, along with the Ash Blossom. I find to be the perfect number of hand traps in the deck, just to stop anything your opponent may try to do if they go first against you. And then for the extra deck monsters, we'll go ahead and start off with the beginning Ice Barriers, the 1 copy of Brionac and the 1 Gungnir. You have the bounce back once per turn power of Brionac, and then Gungnir having the destruction power, being able to discard up to 2 cards to select the same number of cards your opponent controls and destroy the selected cards, being your level 6 Synchro and your level 7 Synchro respectively. It definitely does help with these numbers, with some of the higher numbers being the 2 Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, and the 2 Trishula 0, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. So even with the special summon power that Trishula 0 has to get Trishula back out onto the field, then you also have the option when Synchro Summon to banish up to 3 cards your opponent controls. So more board clearing, and then Trishula, the original one, being able to take a card from your opponent's graveyard, hand, and field when you summon out this card. I also run the 1 copy of Deloran, Tiger King of the Ice Barrier, the 1 Glacial Beast, Iceberg Narwhal, the 1 Navy Dragon Mech, the 1 Crystron, Quaria Glondrix, and the 1 Ravenous Crocodragon for some of the higher level synchro monsters that you can also summon out in the deck, and then just being able to have more of a bounce power with cards like Deloran as well. For the Link monsters, I run 1 copy of Miss Starboy, the 1 Marincess Coral Anemone, the 1 Area Water Charmer Enchantress, and the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, just to have a small lineup of Link monsters to be able to go into if we need to for some of the plays, thanks to our prior of the Ice Barrier. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the setup for your Revealer definitely does help with a lot of the summon setup. So just being able to, with this card, once per turn, discard 1 card to special summon 1 Ice Barrier Tuner from your deck. So then it doesn't really matter what you discard. It can be just 1 other random card from your hand. For the discard, this can then get you your Ice Barrier Tuner, which you'll want to summon out your Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier. And then also with this card, you can send a level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your deck to the graveyard, and this card's level becomes the same as that monster's. So with this being a level 1 tuner, you definitely do want to use this effect to then adjust the level for you to be able to use. So if you send your level 2 monster in the form of Zuijin of the Ice Barrier, you can then make it a level 2. So then you have a level 6 monster in the form of Brionac to summon out, or you can send cards like your Defender, making it a level 7. So then you can go for the Gungnir summon onto the field. The bigger play also comes into the form if you do this summon with both of these monsters. You then also have the option, if you have the Speaker for the Ice Barriers in your hand, to special summon this card out onto the field. And then you have your 2 monsters and your tuner to then summon out your Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, level 9 synchro play for that. Or if you use the same level adjustment plays for what you have for your Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier, being able to then send those additional cards, depending on the monster you send, being the level 3, to summon out your Trishula 0, Dragon of the Ice Barrier instead. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, I've been wanting to update the Ice Barrier deck for a good while. Finally glad I got around to it. It made me remember how much fun this deck could be with all the different synchro summon potential you have in it to begin with. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.